I want to get a huge pool and immerse myself completely. So every nook and cranny is filled with Japanese.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of the KoreKara podcast. In this episode, we interviewed Deni, a Russian YouTuber who makes videos about his journey in learning Japanese. Some of his most viewed videos on his channel include his yearly progress videos with his Japanese, and he even has an interview with Matt vs. Japan on his channel as well. In this episode, we talk about his journey learning Japanese, his plans for moving to Japan, and his other passions as well, such as cubing, reading, and music production. If you like the podcast, please like and subscribe, as it would really help us out in making more content. And if you want to personally support the podcast, we have bonus clips of most of our episodes on Patreon. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Thanks.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the KoreKara podcast, where we look into different aspects of Japan with people who know what they're talking about. I'm Raza, and I'm joined by my co-host, Eric, and this week we have a very special guest in Deni.
Yeah, so I first got to know Deni when I first started learning Japanese, and then I was looking up how to learn Japanese on YouTube, and I found Deni's videos where he documented his entire process learning Japanese, where he made basically progress videos every single year of where he was at with his Japanese level. And those videos were actually filmed in Japanese. So when I was watching it was really motivating for me. And on his channel, he also features a lot of different hobbies that he has, such as things like cubing, music production, and playing the piano. But today we really want to get to know a little bit more about who the man is behind the YouTube channel. So Deni, can you give us a little background and history of who you are and where you're at today?
Well, first of all, thank you. That is very flattering. But yeah, I think that's a fairly accurate description. My main thing, I guess, what I'm trying to focus on the most is Japanese right now. And in the meantime, I'm trying to work on my YouTube channel. I just recently made a Patreon, so hopefully I'll be, I don't know. I'm going to try to make it a little more sustainable over time. Then, yeah, I have university. I'm going into my third year of university, which should be in Japan, but who knows how that's going to go with the virus now. And then, yeah, music production, just something I'm kind of passionate about. Not really my main focus, but also something I like. And cubing, I don't really do cubing these days, but there was a time when I was really hardcore into it, especially in 2018. Last year with competitions too. So yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we just get right into Japanese first? So Deni, what was the reason that made you want to decide to study Japanese in the first place?
Oh, this is something that a lot of people ask me about, and it's actually something I've wanted to talk about. I think the first time I ever just got the idea in my head to even consider learning Japanese was, like a lot of people, through watching anime. But the time when I actually made the choice to actually start doing it was there was one evening when I was talking to my mother, and she brought up if I would want to learn a new foreign language besides English. And I thought well, if I were to learn any foreign language, it would probably be Japanese, because that's what I have the most interest in right now. And literally the very next day, I started learning it because it was already late, so I didn't really have time. But next day, I still to this day remember how I was in my last year of school, and I was eager to get back home because I really wanted to start learning Japanese as soon as possible. And then my interest just grew stronger and stronger through talking to Japanese people, learning about the culture, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So where exactly did you meet these Japanese people?
Well, my first time talking to a Japanese person was through texting. It was a friend of my sister from university who was Japanese. And I just texted her. It was so frustrating because I just knew hiragana and I didn't even know the small characters of hiragana. I thought they were just the same characters but smaller. I didn't realize that they were actually read slightly differently. And yeah, it was just very frustrating. But it was only 3 weeks into learning Japanese that I started doing that. And then 1 month into doing it, into learning Japanese, I got connected with a Japanese guy on italki, and then we spoke on Skype regularly. He was learning Russian, I was learning Japanese. It was a huge language barrier because neither his Russian nor English were very good, and it was very frustrating. But over time, I got better and better. He got better, and we got to. Well, it got easier and easier to communicate. So it was definitely. I could definitely feel my progress as I was learning and studying.
Were you interested in Japanese media like straight from the beginning, like even before you started learning Japanese?
Japanese media. Well, I was watching anime. I think it was like fall of 2015 when I started watching anime like regularly. And then in January of 2016, I began learning Japanese. So yeah, I was already exposed to Japanese media a little bit. But through actually learning it, my interest grew stronger and stronger. I've also picked up German, but with German, I still don't have that connection. So I'm kind of thinking about like if I even want to get back to it, because like to me at least, you really need a connection with the language to try to get better. But I don't feel like I have that with German, but with Japanese, most certainly.
Is there like a specific anime that you watched that like really like got you into wanting to learn Japanese, or was it just like you kind of watched it that in 2015 and you're like, okay, this is like really cool, I just want to keep watching more type of thing?
I remember what it was. It was that I was watching something with subtitles and I was hearing the Japanese in the background, and I was thinking like, oh, it would like their voice acting sounds pretty interesting. Like it would be cool if I could understand it in the pure Japanese without the translation. So that was when I first got the idea. But it really didn't become that much of an interest until I actually started studying it and started learning about Japanese culture. And in the beginning, my main reason was that I wanted to talk to Japanese people because I found them quite interesting and different from where I grew up. Mostly like, I guess, cultural interest, I would say.
I see. Do you intend on continuing to make these yearly update videos, even though in the past few videos you said how your speaking ability didn't necessarily improve?
Oh, yeah. I actually considered that when I recorded my last one, and I think the one before that at this point, it's not really as much about the showing it directly, because in the beginning, I really focused a lot on speaking. So I think I had a huge imbalance of my listening and reading abilities and my speaking abilities. So like I was fairly confident with speaking, even though my vocabulary wasn't really that impressive, but I could still hold a conversation fairly comfortably, even at 2 years. But like the main issue was the reading and listening. So at this point, I'm kind of treating it as a diary of sorts. So I'll definitely do a 5-year progress video. I've not really thought about further than that, but I'll definitely do a progress video for 5 years. It's just kind of a diary type of thing at this point.
Do you feel like your confidence with your own Japanese level has dropped the more you study? Because I know with like, there's like the effect of like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where in the beginning people are the most confident, and then later on, as they learn more and more, they're like, oh no, I actually suck, even though they're actually like way better than they were before. And I know that's been the experience for me.
Yeah, I think you might, if you watched my 3-year video and then 4-year video, you might have noticed that, because like I was satisfied at 3 years, but I was really not satisfied at 4 years because I remember way back in the day, I was expecting like, okay, when I have been learning for like 4 to 5 years, I will probably be able to like watch anime without subtitles and understand a decent amount, like not really have to rely on a dictionary or anything. I didn't really think much about reading, but yeah, that was kind of a vague idea I had in my head, and then it's really I'm really far from there right now. I do watch anime raw these days. It's not that long ago that I started doing it, actually. But yeah, I can feel the improvement. I even have a concrete example of an episode of anime I watched like a couple months ago, and then I dropped that anime. I didn't lost interest, but then I picked it up recently, and I watched that same episode where I left off, and I could understand the same stuff, but a fair bit better already. And I think that was part of the reason of like what discouraged me in the first place to keep watching. But yeah, I guess it's just trying to listen more, consume more content, and getting better gradually.
And when you say like your approach to studying has changed from the beginning, like you're doing a lot of like you mentioned watching anime raw. Initially, what was like I guess your approach, and then how has it kind of evolved to what you're doing right now?
Well, first of all, right now my reliance on like textbooks, grammar, kind of more academic style learning is way lower because I am kind of getting closer and closer to this. I guess point where it's just I don't know, just using the language right and getting better that way. I still do like short study sessions every once in a while where I'll like write down vocab, write down kanji, stuff like that. Well, kanji is still very important, but I don't do that nearly as much as I used to. Right now, I'm trying to just consume more content, trying to enjoy actually using the language. And there are some examples where I can really feel it paying off. Maybe not quite yet as much with like reading and listening, but I've had a lot of experiences like that with speaking, where I'm like, I'm having this like long and kind of not the simplest conversation with this person, and even though I have to ask them about the meaning of some words, I'm still using the language all the time, and I'm able to make myself understood. And these topics are no longer that trivial. So it's really nice when you get that payoff.
Given that, do you still intend on taking the N1 test, given how like the N1 is like more focused on academic vocabulary, and also like how you spent a lot of times finally passing the N2? Do you still think you'll go and study for the N1?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I've heard that the N1 exam is not really that useful unless you're doing something academic, I guess. I've heard that even like Japanese people couldn't pass it, like if they didn't prepare. And
I think it's like they might not get max score if they don't prepare, but I think most Japanese people will be able to get like a passing grade, because I think the threshold is only like 50%, right?
You think so? Well, I'm just gonna go off of that then. I don't know where I heard that, but anyways, it's just like I don't really see the point. My main reason was kind of like taking the JLPT exam was just so, one, I had the achievement just because why not? Two, potentially it can help in the future with like work opportunities. And three, I guess to just see if I can do it. So yeah, I'm not really that interested in the JLPT exam anymore. And in my video where I talked about having passed it, I even said like, I don't think this test is a very good test. It just shows you, it shows you how well you prepared for the test, not really how well you speak Japanese.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned a little bit about like work opportunities. Do you have any interest in going to Japan in the future in a specific job?
Not really, to be honest. Maybe my opinion will change once I've lived there for a year for university. But right now, I'm not really considering moving to Japan or living there at all. I think the 1 year would be enough. I'd probably go for like trips every now and then, because I'm still very much interested in the culture, but in terms of work, I wouldn't say so.
Okay. And I guess speaking of trips, you have been on one to Japan.
Yes.
So your channel actually featured a 6-day vacation over there. So what was that vacation like?
That was the most fucking magical vacation. That was the best trip I have ever been to. And it is really, I feel like when I go to Japan again and for a longer period of time, I'll be kind of disappointed because that experience was so perfect. It was almost like a fucking, I don't know, almost like an anime in and of itself. It was just, I had this great time, like hanging out with my Japanese acquaintances there. I had like I planned out all of my trip meticulously so that I knew like this day I'm doing this. This day I'm going Tokyo Tower. This day I'm going Akihabara and so on. Right, and I really had a great time there, and I would certainly recommend anyone, even if they're not interested in Japan, to go visit Tokyo.
Was there like a specific day that you like enjoyed the most out of that trip?
Ooh, a little harder to say, but maybe just my final day there, where there was this. This was so surreal. I messaged an acquaintance I had there, whom I got in touch with, whom I met first at the Rubik's Cube World Championship 2017 in France. I met a bunch of people there from Japan, and I got in touch with them, and he called over like 7 of his friends, and it was like 8 of us in a Japanese. I'm not sure what that specific type of place is called, but it was just some sort of Japanese restaurant, like a traditional one where you cook the stuff yourself on the stove, right? And they like a couple of them like brought presents for me because I was leaving Japan, and they were like asking me about like my interest in Japan and in Japanese. And before that, I went to, because I had some free time, and one of the girls who was going also had some free time. We ended up going to a Japanese cat cafe, and there were like a lot of very cute cats there. I'm very much a cat person myself, so that was an awesome experience. Yeah, that whole trip was just really magical. I can't describe it any other way.
Did you experience cultural shock when you first arrived there?
No, I think my cultural shock with Japan was probably after that, actually, because I was still kind of naive and did not realize that maybe some of these people are not as excited about hanging out with me as I might have thought. Who knows? Maybe they were, and I'm just overthinking it. But I have there have been other experiences where I've experienced culture shock. But luckily, during that trip, it was great.
So did you meet like any other, I guess, Japanese friends outside of the cubing community when you went there?
Yeah, because there were some. At the time, I was studying in the Russian higher school of economics, which is like one of our higher end universities, and they have a East Asian Studies department with Japanese, and I was studying there, and there were some exchange students who were Japanese who were studying Russian. So I met some of them, and when I went to Japan, I got in touch with them and met up. Yeah, so it was, I think, mostly exchange students from Moscow and those Cuban-related friends.
At that point, how comfortable were you having conversations in Japanese with those Japanese friends that you had?
Actually, I was already somewhat comfortable. Like, I don't think I used English much at all. I did a little bit with some of them who did know English, but for the most part, I was using Japanese, and I couldn't discuss very difficult topics quite yet. But I had a great time talking to them. The more difficulty came from like listening to them talk among each other, because they just go really fucking fast. They go a little bit easier on you if you're a foreigner. So yeah, but for the most part, it was a good experience, I would say.
Did you ever have to deal with the classic English situation in Japan where
Yep.
you start speaking and
Yep.
and they just freeze up?
I was thinking you were going to bring up something else. I had an experience where I spoke Japanese to somebody and asked them for directions, and they spoke back in English. And then I speak back in Japanese again, and then they go back to Japanese. Actually, no, I think it was two exchanges in English, and then they finally switched to Japanese once they realized I can speak it a little bit. There was a really funny video that Dogen has made about this exact situation where it's like he's like getting offended, like 日本語喋ってるでしょ? なんで英語喋ってる? Right? He's like, I found that so funny.
I think it's the one at the coffee shop, right?
Yeah, something like that, where the guy speaks back in English.
Yeah,
and he's getting all.
He was like, "That's racist. I could not be American. Call your manager, please."
Are you assuming? You really can't assume anything these days.
But kind of on the topic of language learning, have you found that your native language has deteriorated after reaching a high level in English and now studying Japanese?
Not from Japanese, but English. I don't remember the exact point, but like somewhere between like 2012, I don't know, 2013 maybe, up to like 2015, I began using English as my main language. And I was thinking completely in English, and I still do. And I only use Russian either for making notes every once in a while, if it makes more sense to make the notes in Russian, or for talking to Russians. For everything else, I use English. It's been years that I've used English as my primary language. So yeah, because of that, even before I went to the UK to study, my Russian kind of slowly deteriorated. Some of my friends comment on it every once in a while when I make very silly mistakes. And I've actually had like maybe 3 people, I think, point out that even my speech manner, like I guess my tone and my mannerisms are kind of not very Russian anymore. So yeah, that's definitely something I've experienced, but not from Japanese.
I see. And speaking about your college time in UK, how was that? So was it college, by the way?
Well, we just call it university. It's Manchester University.
University. Okay. So I guess how was your time at Manchester University when you were over there, coming from Russia?
Do you mean in terms of studying or in terms of like culture shock, stuff like that?
Yeah, I guess more in terms of actually being in England versus Russia, maybe a little bit of the culture shock, and then as well as how it was to like live in a new country for, I'm not sure if it's the first time,
yeah.
How was that experience? First time, yeah.
That experience was quite surreal, to be honest. Especially, I remember when I went to Moscow for for summer vacation or something, or spring break. And then I got back to Manchester. I was thinking like, oh, I am now like returning to Manchester. I'm not going, I'm returning, it was very weird that time, especially. But yeah, I think when I first got to the UK, started living there, I was thinking like, oh, it's so much better here. There's all this stuff we don't have in Russia. Well, I'm going to say Moscow specifically, because all of Russia and Moscow are kind of 2 different topics. So I'm going to say Moscow. But after like a couple years of living there, I kind of started to appreciate some of the things we have in Moscow that are not as great in the UK. For example, like public transport is so convenient here. And like trains are very convenient and cheap. I don't know, if I go to a different city, like I can stay in a hotel for very cheap. So travel is fairly cheap. So things like that. There were also things that I thought we didn't have, but upon like looking further, like Amazon and eBay, we kind of have our own equivalents. So I'm no longer really sure if I want to keep living in Moscow in the future or move somewhere. Right now, I've kind of stopped thinking about leaving because I don't know I don't know of a place where I would be comfortable living besides Moscow.
I see. And sort of what you spoke to in the UK when you went to Japan, did you have like a sense of, oh, this is so much more convenient over here rather than in Moscow or in the UK?
Yeah, well, to be honest, public transport is already very convenient in Moscow, for example, right? And public transport is very convenient in Japan. But as a comparison, we have one centralized system, whereas in Japan, you have, the Japanese rail, you have Tokyo Metro, you have Toei, I think, or something like that. So there are all of these companies, and you have to have different passes, or at least the fees are different. I don't know. It's just it's already fairly convenient on that front in Moscow, and I don't know. I've not lived there. I've not stayed there long enough to notice a lot of other things. So I can't really say that it stood out as more convenient to me.
I see. But you did mention that you were planning on going to Japan for your final year, but of course everything with the virus. But
not actually my final year, my third year, and then my fourth year will be in Manchester again.
Manchester. Oh, I see. That's actually really interesting. So I guess for your third year, which you are planning on going to in Japan, do you have any, I guess, contingencies for that in case like it doesn't pan out because of the virus?
I don't know. I right now, like everything is figured out on the university side of things, and all that's left is for Japan to lift its like visa restrictions, and then for me to get a visa and go there. I even asked the dorm because they said I have to move in like in September, but I can't do that right now. So they said that they'll just hold the room for me until I come over, which is very nice. So yeah, it's just a matter of whether or not, but when Japan lifts its travel restrictions.
I see.
And you're going to KO University?
Yeah.
Right? Actually, in one of our podcasts, it's like the next one that's coming out, we interview a student at KO University. So that might be interesting if you...
Oh, a Japanese student?
Check that out. Yeah.
Oh, I'll definitely watch that. I heard that it's a pretty good university in Japan.
Yeah, it's a great university. It'll be really interesting to hear her stories too, because she is kind of a foreigner in terms of she's half Japanese, but she grew up in Taiwan and then went to Japan for the university in KO. So it's like a little bit of a different perspective on that.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be something you can enjoy. But I guess before you get to Japan, so hopefully everything opens up and all is well. But do you have a specific thing you want to do once you get to Japan, like very specific that maybe you didn't go and do in your previous trip over there?
Yes, definitely. I want to travel as much as I can and as much as I can afford, because it is an expensive place. But I've been recently like obsessed with the idea of like just going out of the city somewhere like into the nature and just like hanging out and relaxing a bit, because it's just so like Moscow is a very busy city, and Manchester is not that calm either, I would say. So I just want I don't know, go out somewhere like into the Inaka in Japan, just like hang out, relax, things like that. I think Japanese nature is so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, especially like outdoor onsens. It's like really amazing.
Did you ever get the actual chance to go into an onsen when you were in Japan last time?
It wasn't really something I was particularly looking at. I already had a lot of things I wanted to experience, and that wasn't really at the top of my list, so I didn't go. I only had 6 days. I had to make the most of it.
Yeah, you had to make the most of it. That's honestly not even close to the amount of time you need to travel and see everything in Japan. And I guess, do you have any plans of also like going to, like you mentioned the Inaka, but are you also interested in like other cities like Kyoto, like Osaka, or maybe even going up to Hokkaido?
Yeah, I'd love to go to Hokkaido. There's a really cool like aquarium somewhere in Hokkaido. I don't remember the city, but there's this Twitter account which all of you should follow. Anyone listening to this, and you guys as well. It's called Agu Hiyori. And they basically just share these videos of these 2 seals from this aquarium, and they're the cutest seals ever. And I just love, like, and they always leave like very cute comments like, "Oh, Agu is so cute today. Look at her eyes," or something like that. And yeah, it's from the city in Hokkaido, and I really want to go to that aquarium. A Japanese friend of mine who I think is maybe like the only real friend I can say I have who's Japanese. He has suggested, when I mentioned the Inaka to him, he has suggested that I go to some place in Tochigi that we should go together. And I would love to see that. He sent me some photos. It was really pretty. Then I guess, yeah, some popular places, Nara, Osaka, Kyoto.
Do you have sort of a backup plan for this year if Japan does not lift their travel restrictions and you aren't able to go?
I do not, to be honest. But I should definitely be able to go at least in the second semester. But I hope that I can go somewhere in the middle of the first semester. But at this point, all I can do is hope.
I see. And prior to this, you mentioned meeting Japanese people on italki, for example, but you've actually had more experiences meeting Japanese people actually in real life, right? And a little thanks to something that you wear. Yeah,
I have this t-shirt that I've worn in some of my videos where it says Nihongo sabereru on the front of it. And I just wear it out sometimes, just if I'm going out like somewhere like in the middle of the city. And I've actually already met a few people that way, like a few Japanese speakers, native Japanese people too. And they have come up to me and started up a conversation, and we had a bit of a chat. It was quite nice. I'm actually selling them right now on my website. So if any of you are interested in getting a t-shirt like that, if you'd like to meet Japanese people in the wild outside of Japan, I don't know why, but I like saying in the wild, because they're like Pokemon and you have to catch them. So I would recommend one of these. But yeah, I just like wearing it myself. I think it looks nice as well.
Did you ever wear it when you travel to Japan?
I've not had it back then. And it would be weird if I did.
Yeah.
It would be like a master ball over there.
Yeah, I don't wanna make a fool of myself in Japan. But outside it's great.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny in terms of like when you go in the US and you see someone maybe coming from outside and they're wearing like a shirt that like says like, "Do you speak English?" And you're just like, all right.
Have you ever seen those? Because it's also the opposite is popular in Japan, where like here we like Japanese writing because it looks cool. They think like English looks cool, and they'll put some nonsensical phrase on a T-shirt and sell it, and people wear it because they don't understand. So funny.
Yeah, they I've seen some pretty random stuff on those shirts. Like I just saw one that was like, "Fucking smile, yes," and I was like,
yeah, that's pretty funny.
I was like, "Olay, you do you, man. I respect it." Gotta respect that Japanese fashion scene over there.
Well, who knows? Maybe they are 2 levels deep, and they know that it sounds funny, and they know that the phrase will actually work and it'll make you smile, but for a different reason. Maybe they're thinking one step ahead. You never know.
Yeah, some like 4D chess going on over here.
Apparently that brand,
Yeah.
Superdry, is like purposely making fun of that trend in Japan. Like they just took random words and put in Google Translate into Japanese and made it like all their t-shirts and logos.
Wait, you mean t-shirts that are written in English or in Japanese?
No, there's this one like
Yeah.
popular brand, Superdry.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
Yeah. All their shirts have like Japanese words, and their logo says like they have the Japanese motto, and it doesn't make any sense because they just put Superdry into Google Translate and then put it on the t-shirt.
I was always wondering. I was trying to look that up with like a dictionary, and I couldn't figure out what it meant just from the Japanese writing.
Yeah, I actually had like a pretty funny experience with that because like the first time I went to Japan, it was like also like a trip like the one you had. It was like a 6-day trip to Japan with a couple of my friends, and I'd like the first time like I'd gone out like internationally just like by myself with a couple of friends type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But right before then, I bought a super dry jacket because it was in the winter time. It was going to be cold. And I was like, wow, like I'm getting like a Japanese jacket with like, and then I'm going to Japan because I didn't like understand any Japanese at the time. And I was like I was like feeling myself with that. And then afterwards, I found out that it's actually like a brand from the UK and they have like nothing to do with Japan. And I was like,
I didn't even actually know that. I was wondering why I've not seen it before going to the UK.
Yeah, apparently like it's like I mean it's really big of course, but yeah, like the Japanese was super like it fools you.
Well, as long as it sells.
As long as it sells. Hopefully we can say that about your shirt in a little while too.
Well, honestly, first and foremost, I just wanted to get one for myself. If people want to buy it, it's just a bonus. We're like, as soon as you buy one, we immediately print it and send it out. So it's not like I have a huge stock that I have to sell immediately. I just really wanted a couple t-shirts like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like really interesting to just be able to go out and kind of signify that you're looking for Japanese people to talk to.
Yeah.
Usually like pretty difficult kind of given like the nature of Japanese people being like a little bit more on the reserve side.
Well, and
I
then
guess
how would they even think that you speak Japanese if you don't look Japanese, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I guess like going back to like the whole meeting Japanese people in the wild, like you mentioned, what exactly did you end up like talking about when you met up with them in Moscow?
Oh boy. I guess just like basic cultural exchange, just talking about like differences between Russia and Japan, asking each other about why we even decided to learn these languages. The guy that I mentioned, who's like my only like real friend from Japan, I met him just like that. There's like in the Moscow State University, which is our top tier university here. There's like this event they do once a month where they'll have like Japanese speakers and Japanese native speakers, all mingling and just talking and stuff. But like last time I went there were barely any Japanese people, so I just kind of got bored and left. But before it was a little more active, and that's where I met this guy, and we just talked about stuff we're interested in, did some basic cultural exchange, and then he went back to Japan. And luckily enough, he actually messaged first sometime, because most of the time I have to message first with Japanese people. They don't really want to talk to foreigners, it seems.
Yeah, that's when you know you made it.
Yatta!
Is there like a pretty, what's like the Japanese population in Moscow, do you know?
Probably abysmal. I can't even think of it, honestly. I have met Japanese people randomly here through over 3 years, let's say. I've met Japanese people randomly twice. Every
wow.
other time was like intentional going out, right? But by accident, it's only happened twice. I remember the first time I made a video about it where they like I was on the subway and like an Asian couple walked in and I was like, oh, could they be Japanese? And like 99% of the time they're Chinese because we have a huge Chinese population here. But I looked at the map the woman was holding and I was desperately trying to look for some kana. But there were like a lot of kanji there because it's like place names. And then I saw on the side it said Russia, and I was like, "Yes, jackpot!" And I immediately started talking to them. And I remember getting so many looks from the Russian people on the train. I was like, "Yes,
This is my
yes,
chance."
Yeah, exactly. That was a very fun experience.
Yeah, it's like interesting you say that because when we talked to Matt from Matt vs Japan, he had like a lot of these scenarios back when he's in Oregon. So he would just like go and not necessarily like stake them out, but as soon as he heard some Japanese, he's like, "All right, this is my chance. Time to talk to
him talking about it."
Yeah, so I mean like it's always really interesting to do it when you can actually like utilize the language that you've learned and really not like again like you mentioned, like there's not too much practicality in tests when all you want to do is, I guess, speak to people if that's your entire goal. But like really going towards that is like an amazing feat. But I guess given the practicality of languages, you mentioned Japanese as well as a little bit of German prior, but do you have any other interest in learning maybe a language other than Japanese or German, or do you want to mainly just keep focusing on Japanese in like, I guess, the future?
I certainly want to focus on Japanese, probably at least until the end of university, because I don't see the point in studying two languages at once when I'm also trying to pass, like, you know, get my degree. And I don't really study it with the university program. I just kind of do whatever I don't even do what they say. I didn't do any of my homework. I bailed out on a lot of my projects. I just went to the exams and then passed those, and it was enough because the exams were 70% of our final grades. So I was like, what's the point in wasting all this time when the passing grade is 40%? And so far it's worked out every time. So I have no regrets about that because I feel like it's a bit of a hindrance more than a help studying it with university. But yeah, until I finish my degree, I don't think I'm going to focus on any other language. But I think once I'm at a comfortable level with Japanese, I would want to hopefully maybe at least, on the side, learn another language, maybe get back to German. That would probably be the best idea. But I don't know if I'll actually study another language as seriously, but we'll see. The main barrier is like the main benefit is like wait, what am I saying? The main variable is like finding a language you have an interest in, right? And then once you do, and you're like, I really want to get good at this, then it's like smooth sailing, right? As long as you're not making very, very obvious mistakes. But I don't really have any other language like that right now. But who knows? I've been kind of interested in Hebrew recently, but again, I don't really have much of a reason to learn it. So we'll see. We'll see what I'm feeling when I'm at a comfortable level with Japanese.
Gotta wait for the update video, guys.
Yes.
Do you have any specific goals that you want to reach with Japanese? And maybe you can talk about some of your achievements with Japanese so far, too.
Hard to say. I want to, because I don't really have, I don't really make concrete goals anymore. I think the main goal is to keep learning, right? And I'm not too fussed about how quickly I do it anymore. I used to be very fussed about it, but I don't think it's such a big deal. I think as long as you're making progress and you're happy with learning the language and you're not making very obvious mistakes, then should be fine. But yeah, I'd want to get to a level where I can listen to the language comfortably. Like I remember with English, it was actually much easier to get to that point with English because there's a lot more crossover with Russian, even though Russian is not a Germanic language, but still. And yeah, like there was a point at which I didn't really need to use a dictionary. I would only really use a dictionary when I heard a new word. And I was like, okay, I've heard this word before. I want to know what this means now. So I would love to get to that point with Japanese where I don't need a dictionary anymore. And I can understand like 95% of everything they're talking about when listening. But with reading, it's a bit more difficult because you can have like very specialized texts which even Japanese people could not read, right? Or they would struggle. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of less, it's a little more of a slippery slope, I would say, with reading, because it depends on what kind of stuff you want to read. I'm sure I would probably have a better time reading something about Rubik's Cubes than somebody who's just an academic Japanese learner or something. I don't know. So it's about like, at that point, it almost gets into the territory of knowledge of just stuff over knowledge of the language. Like, for example, there's a lot of stuff I know about in English, but I don't know about it in Russian. Like, I don't know the terms. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to discuss it. I just use English words and I try to explain to Russian speakers what I mean. And then maybe there are some topics like that backwards where I could talk about it in Russian, but not in English. So yeah, sorry, I'm rambling, but my point is just that with reading, it kind of gets a bit less clear. Like if I say, oh, I want to understand like 95% of what I'm reading. Well, somebody could give me a book that would be so foreign to me that I would not understand even half of it. Or somebody could give me a book now where it's so easy that I would understand everything already. So I guess I just want to be comfortable. I know it's very, very vague, but still, I'm not comfortable now. I have to use dictionaries. So when I'm comfortable, I'll probably know. But regardless, the main point is to keep moving forward and keep getting better.
Do you have like a specific strategy moving forward in order to kind of like tackle reading, for example?
Just read more. Same for listening. I just want to listen more. I guess it's just like practice, right? Like with speed cubing, I did a lot of speed cubing. The main thing is practice. If you practice more, you get better. Same thing with music. You practice piano more, you get better. It's kind of the same with everything. These days, people refer to it like as immersion, it seems. So I guess you could say I want to immerse more. But I just I always just call it practice. I don't really see much of a difference, to be honest.
Yeah, immersion is everything.
I wanna get a huge pool and immerse myself completely. Just so every nook and cranny is filled with Japanese.
Drowning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love pouring all that Japanese down on everything. Yeah, it's like kind of a running joke with our podcast too. Like the first episode we had is called "Immersion is Everything," and like we have like a Discord too, and it's just like immersion is everything. Like whenever it gets brought up, it's a thing. But but I guess have you done anything specifically with immersion in mind? Like have you thought about it like kind of along the lines of maybe like Matt versus Japan's like sort of MIA method, for example?
Yeah, I've certainly learned a lot from his stuff in terms of like practicing. Like I have a he like has all of these videos he puts out for free, and I think it's a great thing he's doing because there's a lot of useful stuff in there. And I think even if you don't decide to like fully go hardcore into immersion, you can still take away a lot of useful stuff from it. So yeah, I've definitely applied a lot of those tips to my own studying. So mostly like to the way I practice. I try to just kind of, I don't know, just try to listen more, read more, try not to fuss too much about not understanding stuff. Just there are a lot of tips you can learn. So yeah, I've definitely learned a fair bit from Matt's channel.
I see. Also, you mentioned a little bit about like the exams you took and sort of like the whole university classes for Japanese. Do you have maybe like a funny story or excerpt from there where it kind of just you were kind of amused at what was going on in the classroom in terms of what actually they were doing? Or
I was actually very like, I was looking back at it, it's kind of cringy. Like, I was very salty back then. I was thinking like, oh, all of this academic studying is such bullshit. They're wasting our time. Why do we have to do this? Like, I mean, I still kind of believe it. I just try to be a bit less of a, I don't know, a bit less of a dick about it. But yeah, it's just, I don't like the approach because we have, especially with my university in Manchester, because we have all of these opportunities to speak with our native Japanese teachers. But what we do is we'll just read out words from the textbook. We just go, Nihongo, Nihongo, just benkyo, benkyo, every time. And that's like once a week we spend like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes just doing that and nothing else. Just reading out the words. And then like grammar, which I personally, I don't know, maybe I'm just an exception, but I've personally always found grammar very, very intuitive. So I study it by myself. I don't need a teacher to break it down for me. I'll ask questions if I'm confused about something, but I could do that in some other time. Don't have to spend the whole class studying grammar, I think personally. But and then we had these like classes which are supposed to be discussion classes where we're supposed to be talking, but all we do is we have a dialogue from the textbook and we just read the dialogue and fill in the blanks. How is that me talking? I'm just reading. It was very frustrating because with the assets that they have, they could do a lot more, but they don't. They go the good old unproven, I want to say, route, which does not yield results in the long run. Yeah, I guess it's just the path of least resistance. Just take what people pay money for already. I remember hearing about these classes in some school in Vancouver in Canada where they will like kick you out as soon as they hear you speak your native language. And they'll keep the money. Wow. They say you have to sign a release that you must never speak your native language or they will kick you out.
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like immersion. It's like an immersion program where like for 3 months over the summer, you can't speak your native language.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how effective that is because like a lot of it is talking to foreigners, maybe. I don't know. But I just found the concept very interesting. But yeah, with our classes, it's a bit frustrating, I want to say. But then like my favorite were, weirdly enough, the classes we had with our non-native speaker. So like our translation classes with our British teacher. And those were better because we were actually reading a text and actually trying to translate it. But with that, I had a bit of a different frustration where some of the texts were just so difficult. Like I had to look up words like several times a sentence. And I thought like, is this really what Japanese reading is like? But I'm reading a Japanese book right now and it's not nearly as bad. I don't get why they were giving us such difficult texts.
Do you remember what you were reading?
No, I can't remember. There were like some news articles, some like food recipes, some journals, some like books, novels, stuff like that, like excerpts. And then there was also stuff where we listened and tried to understand, which are those are pretty good. But yeah, some of the reading that we did, that was tough as hell. But yeah, that was probably the best stuff we did. There was no real speaking practice. no real, just very, very little of substance, I want to say, personally.
When you go to KO for your study abroad, do you still have to take Japanese classes, or would you be taking classes in Japanese?
I said I had my JLPT N2 exam, passed, and I showed them that, and I was like, no, I'm not taking Japanese classes. I mean, it's not like I went out of my way to do that. It's said in the program, like, if you have JLPT N2, you can you can forego the Japanese classes and take actual classes with Japanese students, which I'm really hyped for. But I also feel like it's going to be really scary because they're just going to treat me like I know Japanese, I can speak it freely, and it's probably going to be very difficult. But that's there's no shortcuts, right? You gotta do it.
Yes, gotta throw yourself in, I guess, the wild grass.
Yeah, throw myself in the deep end. Do it like the way it's meant to be done.
Yeah, have Pokemon appear everywhere around you.
I would be the wild one then, not the Japanese people.
That is true. It's just all a matter of perspective. Did you end up meeting anyone in your like Japanese class in Manchester that was like actually very proficient in Japanese, and also wondering, I guess, the same thing of like, oh, this class is like total bullshit?
Yes, one guy. I still don't know if I don't really care as much anymore. But at the time, I was very like competitive with my languages. I was like, I want to be the best one in class. Nobody can be better than me. And I don't know. It's hard to measure with languages. So maybe I am. Maybe I'm like second or third. Maybe second. But there was a guy who used to study with us, where Japanese was his minor, and he like dropped out. He was like, this way of learning is such a waste of time. And he was the only guy that I was on the same wavelength with, and I feel a little bit envious because he doesn't have to do it anymore. But I don't really have much of a choice because I can't really think of any other degree that I'm interested in enough to spend 4 years doing it.
Damn, he just left you like that.
Yeah. There was a time when there was some Japanese person who studied with us, which was weird. I was like, why are you studying Japanese when you are Japanese and you speak it fluently? But they just came to a few classes, and I don't know. Maybe it was just like a cultural exchange thing. I don't really remember. But yeah.
Unless it was like that one arrogant Japanese person, like you never see it, but somehow appeared in your classes, like, all right, I'm just gonna go flex on everyone here and leave. Like, I've actually never seen a Japanese person like flex before in my life. Yeah.
I don't know if I have. It doesn't seem to be that kind of culture there. You're kind of it's mob mentality. Not mob mentality. It's like you think of it as like you are part of a whole, not an individual, right? Which has its benefits too. If you think about it, in some cases, like I remember hearing the story. Sorry, this is a tangent, but I remember hearing the stories about the tsunami in 2011, like just the cooperation and stuff like that. It's very, I don't know, heartwarming, I guess.
I see. Did you ever, like, I guess, experience that in the times you met, like, your Japanese friends, or maybe, like, with cubing? Like, was it, like, a very, I guess, like, modest, humble approach? Like, they probably just, like, broke their personal best, and they just come in, and they're like, oh, it's nothing, you're way better, it's type of thing. Like,
yeah, definitely very humble. I don't know. I've not really spoken to the cubers as much. Well, I have a bit, but not really enough to have a lot of anecdotes. But yeah, overall, just very humble, very nice people. I still remember there's this guy. His name is Arifumi Fushimi, who is the best in Japan for a lot of events. And I think he was even... I think he was world champion one time for one-handed. I'm not too sure, but I think he was. And yeah, he was very nice and very humble and very helpful as well with my Japanese. At the time I first met him, I've only been learning for a year and a half, and he was really accommodating and helpful. He showed me to their table where they were sitting at the World Championship with the Japanese cubers, and it felt so weird. It's like, almost like I don't know if they really accepted me, but like, I don't know. I was hanging out with them. Maybe in hindsight, they were thinking like, oh, why is he sitting with us? But actually, at last year's World Championship, they invited me themselves because they remembered me, and they were like,
oh, nice.
Let's go have dinner. And I was like, oh my God, is this really happening?
You've been accepted.
Yes, finally assimilated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once you get the chance to go over there, you can actually like hang out with them there too. It'll be just like more like frequently, I guess, too. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a great experience. But I guess speaking to cubing though, that's one of your other main hobbies. So, and you actually feature it a lot on your channel, actually, or previously.
Well, yeah, I used to.
But yeah, but could you explain how you got into cubing and how it became such a passion at that time?
Very simple. There was a guy in my school when I was 14 years old. It was March of 2013. I still remember. And he brought a Rubik's Cube to school. And I tried solving it. And I actually got fairly far along. I solved like 2 layers by myself. And then once I got to the last layer, I was like, okay, this is going to be a bit too much to figure out on my own. So I just looked it up online and then learned to solve it. My first time was like 11 minutes. My second time was 5 minutes. So you immediately start dropping off. And then, just practiced a lot. Started going to competitions. I've now been to 50 Rubik's Cube competitions. Wow. Just squeezed in my final 50th one just before quarantine or lockdown. Organized a lot of competitions as well. Haven't ever set any records. There was one time when I was second in Russia for one event. And also another event where I was third in Russia. But that's about it. My main thing was like blindfolded. So I guess I've achieved some success, at least that I'm satisfied with. I guess it's just been practice and meeting people, especially meeting people. That was great. Meeting Japanese people, at some point German speakers too, practice some German. Overall, very, very positive experience and a very nice community.
And I guess like you mentioned one aspect that often goes not really talked about, which is like the actual organization of a tournament, which is completely different from playing and kind of checking in and just getting your time in. But how was that process like versus being the actual, I guess, competitor?
Well, it's a fair bit more stressful because you have to if you mess up, it kind of, if you mess up big time, it affects like all of the people at the competition. And there's a lot of organizational skills you have to have, like managing people and their tasks, because you have like a small team, right? And I think most of the time I was in the role of like one of the, main organizers. So I was like giving out tasks, making sure that everything is going according to plan, and making sure that everything that needs to be prepared for the competition in terms of like equipment and whatnot is ready. And I guess like organizational skills overall, and managing your staff or whatever it is.
Has that helped you like in your endeavors, like moving forward and like presently?
Sorry, in my what? Oh, endeavors.
Yeah.
I would say so. I mean, I've actually done it as a job for a little while. I was organizing competitions for this, one of the biggest cube shops in Russia. That was probably the most I've worked. And then I was thinking about organizing, or not organizing, because there's already this event that we have in Moscow, like once a year. It's called Hinode, which is like a Japanese culture festival type of thing. And I was thinking, like, I could go to them with my knowledge of Japanese and with my organizational skills, show them the events I've organized, and be like, "Come on, guys, I could be very useful for your team. Let's try to cooperate and see where it goes." I don't know, but I'm sure it will come in useful. I'm sure it will be useful in the long run. So yeah, definitely a positive experience, I would say.
Like recently you made videos about some of the new hobbies that you started, like reading or music production and piano. Do you find hard to manage time for all these separate hobbies?
Well, reading, I don't even know if I can say reading is a hobby, because it's just like, I don't really consider gaming to be a hobby of mine. That's just something I do, right? So reading is the same. And right now I'm reading a Japanese book, so that ties in with Japanese. Music, though, yeah, I do try to balance it. I recently put out a new track, and I think this is the track I've worked on the most. But I'm still very much learning, trying to find my own sound, trying to understand music structure better, things like that. But I think I'm getting better. But it's definitely not my main focus. It's kind of a side thing. My main focus is Japanese and my YouTube channel right now, I would say.
I see. Also, I saw that you've read some Murakami Haruki books in English, and I was wondering, like, have you had any experiences reading in Japanese and comparing, like, how his tone changed?
Murakami is actually the author I've read of the most. I read one of his book in English, and then 4 books, which were a series of books, in Russian. And now I'm reading a 5th book in Japanese, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. And honestly, I can't really tell that much of a difference. Like, it feels kind of gloomy and kind of slow-paced in English and Russian, and it does in Japanese too. And I also, like, there's a very like immediate. Sorry, I'll say that again. I've also noticed that it's very apparent when Murakami starts kind of going into detail about certain things. Like, he describes things a lot in detail. And that's where Japanese becomes immediately harder. I have to look up more stuff. But like, when it's just characters just doing things and like talking, it's just such a breeze. It kind of ties in with a point I made earlier about how even with like reading, you will have certain things that will be much more difficult than others. So I want to, in the long run, I want to be able to comfortably read a whole book like that with I'm not going to say without looking it up in a dictionary, because I have to look up words in dictionaries in English and in Russian. So I don't think that's ever going to happen, that I'm not going to use a dictionary. And I think that's probably most people. Like, even Japanese people have to look up words. So you're never going to know every word out there. So it's just you try to learn more to have fewer and fewer new words come up, right?
With Murakami, though, like, his writing style is really different from any other Japanese author. And I read that in the past. I'm not sure if he does it anymore, but in the past, he would first write his entire book in English and then translate that into Japanese. So it would give him a really interesting style and prose.
I remember him writing about that in his book, Hear the Wind Sing, which is his first book ever, where with his second chapter, he tried doing that. He tried like writing it in English and then translating it. But then he commented about how like it made the Japanese very broken, but that taught him certain techniques that he could then use in his normal Japanese writing. So I don't think he quite wrote full books and then translated them. I think he just used that technique and then applied that to his actual Japanese to make it sound more interesting, I guess, to have his own personal style. If I remember correctly, anyways. But yeah, you are right. It's a very unique writing style. It's very interesting. And I've read two other Japanese books. Not in Japanese, but nonetheless, like they were very different from Murakami's writing.
I see. Did you learn any like specific vocabulary words that you like to this day like still like think about as soon as you hear like Murakami?
Oh, Murakami. Can't really think of any because I only recently started reading this book from him.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, there are some words that he uses a lot. Like he uses the word kurayami, which is like darkness, a lot. I don't know if that's the word Japanese people most commonly use for darkness, but he uses that word a lot for some reason. And there are a few other words that just reoccur, which is kind of interesting, I guess. Maybe it ties in with his personal writing style.
Yeah, it's actually really helpful to read from the same authors because they always use the same words even across different books. So it's like you might see a word for the first time and you think it's rare, but then once you read like a few more of the books of like the author's books, like, oh, the word comes like all the time.
Oh yeah, I noticed that with I was reading a manga from Kurikyo Shinsha, who's like the author of Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and he uses like obscure kanji a lot. Like he writes morau with the kanji for morau, which is kind of strange because I don't really see that almost anywhere else. But through reading the manga, I started noticing these reoccurring patterns in his writing.
I see. And like, I guess speaking to like the hobbies that you mentioned previously in terms of like music production, how exactly did you get into it? Like getting into like Ableton, for example, and like actually like, cause you previously spent time on the piano and then you went in once you got more into music production. Now you have like this entire setup around like your laptop that you showed in one of your YouTube videos. Like, how did you like transition into that and really like develop this passion?
That's actually a good question because I remember like for many years I was feeling like I really wanted to do music. There was a time when I've tried learning guitar. There was a time I tried doing DJing, I always liked singing, even though I really suck at singing. I just like doing it when I'm alone. But I've always really been drawn to music. And that's also maybe a little bit, I don't even want to say that it's gets in the way of Japanese. But like, I guess it causes me to have some like lost opportunities in terms of like immersion. Because when I go out, I really want to listen to music. I don't want to listen to Japanese content. And yeah, I've had this inclination towards music for a long time, I think. And I first tried piano, which was actually from talking to a Japanese guy I met in a bar. Well, it was an event for like Japanese speakers. But nonetheless, I met this guy there who was learning Japanese. And I just thought like, maybe I should try piano. And then I started learning piano a bit. Then eventually I saw some video about like synthesizers. And then I remember it like clicked in my brain. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do like synthesizers, electronic music, stuff like that. And then it just snowballed. I spent a lot of the money I earned from organizing competitions on music production. So it was a very nice opportunity. And I really like music. And I really like doing it with hardware because you have that hands-on approach. And to me, it's much more enjoyable. So yeah, and maybe I should experiment with some Japanese style music. I follow a couple Japanese like electronic music producers.
Oh yeah.
And I think it would be nice to like learn from them, maybe try to adapt some of their things that aren't as present in Western music. Who knows?
How exactly did you learn everything about like music production that you've gotten to know so far? Was it like through YouTube videos, for example, or maybe like an online course?
Uh, yeah, a lot of it was from YouTube. Music theory, I learned from YouTube. I did take some classes for piano, but that's not really music production. That's more so just like music theory and actually learning to play the piano. So yeah, it was just self-study, I guess. I also have this book about music production. I should actually get back to reading it. I stopped at some chapter, not like some time ago. It's very nice to have that structured, idea in your head. I guess it's kind of the same as with languages. Like you can learn without a book, but it's the benefit of a textbook is that it structures things in your brain, and you understand. Okay, this is this, and this is that.
I see. And you've kind of had this sort of like gradual evolution in terms of your music where like you didn't feel like satisfied with the first one, but then you got to a point where you felt comfortable putting it on YouTube and then you kept on going a little bit more from there. So, and now you actually released your first track, right? So how comfortable do you feel in terms of your music production capabilities now after like actually having time to go and spend with it and learn more?
I feel a little embarrassed about answering this one because I'm still very, very much an amateur. You should understand that if somebody puts out a track, that doesn't mean it's a good track. It's just like I'm trying to, because like a big tip that I got from other like artists is that you should like try to just like finish something and like make more and more, and you'll get better over time, right? If you try to make the best song immediately, you're not gonna like, even if you spend a lot of time, you're probably not gonna make a great song, right? So you want to focus more on like just finishing it and moving on, and then doing more and more. And that's kind of, I'm trying to like go by that advice that I've heard from various different artists. And I guess I'm also trying to do the same with YouTube. Like you could always perfect your video more and more, but you just gotta finish it and put it out there and work on the next one. And I'm actually working on a pretty big video, well, for my channel at least, a pretty big video about kanji. The topic is like, how much Japanese can you read if you know 1,500 kanji? And yeah, I finished all of the research for it, and I've done like some testing because I know like around about 1,500 kanji. So I thought it would be an interesting topic. And yeah, I have the script finished. I just need to like record it now and edit it together, I guess.
Well, so previously you mentioned how you really like singing, and I want to ask, did you ever had the opportunity to go to karaoke when you were in Japan?
In Japan, no. I've gone to karaoke like in the UK. But I have put on some Japanese songs though. It was very funny.
Do you have a specific song you're gonna name drop right here?
Senbon Zakura. Do you know that one? You don't know that one? It's Hatsune Miku. It's a very popular song from her. From
I've probably heard.
I know how to play it on the piano, and I can. I know most of the lyrics, I think.
I see. Have you listened to a lot of Hatsune Miku like prior, like I guess with like the whole interest in Japan, or was it like this specific song was like a banger to you?
Yeah, well, I have a few songs from Hatsune Miku, but I don't listen to a lot of them. I like Senbon Zakura though. I think the tune is quite nice. But I much prefer like live singing. I really love the track. This is kind of random, but like I really love the track, which also has an animated music video. It's called Me, Me, Me. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
That song, I remember, dude, I looked up the lyrics for it and I tried to like translate it and understand it. And it was like giving me goosebumps because I really liked, like I've been listening to this song for so long. And then I was like, oh, it's actually a very sad song. I was kind of touched by it. It's a very nice song. I think more people should maybe look up the lyrics and try to understand what it's about.
Yeah, it was like super interesting to me because a bunch of my friends like showed it to me because like they're like, dude, this music video is so weird. But then like you, I was like a little confused and like off put at first too. I was like, what's going on here? Because I had like absolutely zero context like plunged in.
Mhm.
But it is, yeah, definitely should go check it out. I actually never looked at the lyrics before too, so I'll go check that out around after this too and kind of see that. It sounds actually super interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, another thing that's also kind of interesting to me is, have you ever seen those like Hatsune Miku, like the like live concerts?
Oh
Have you
yeah,
seen
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It's a very weird cultural phenomenon in Japan. I I was actually thinking like just for the lulz, it would be funny to like go to one of those with like a friend, but now I'm just thinking like I don't know, like I don't get the culture around that. Like I don't know. I much prefer live. Well, not live, like real singing. Even though it goes through like 5 different filters to make you sound like a robot again, but nonetheless, it sounds better to my ears than a Vocaloid.
As long as long as the person becoming a robot, not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any other like weird cultural phenomenon about Japan that you just like, what is going on here?
Maybe all of the like shows that they have on Japanese TV. Have you seen those? Like there's some really weird stuff they have. Like I don't know. Some of it is so vulgar. Some of it is just so weird. Like it's just strange. You know what? I even still get that kind of like feeling of like being taken aback from anime. I was just actually before we started recording this, I was watching an anime, and there were like, you know how there are some of these tropes where they will start like shouting to the whole class so everybody hears them, and they make a scene and they make it so dramatic, like, you lied to me, how could you, I trusted you, Sasuke, right? But then that would never happen, nor in Japan, nor probably in the West. So like it's just so fake to me, and I'm like, why? It's just so cringy to me. I don't get it. Maybe it's like this weird fantasy for Japanese people. Like, oh, I wish I could just I could just go all out.
Let it all out.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely is.
And I feel like that trope's kind of gone to the point where they're just doing that on things that like are so trivial and make no sense.
Yeah.
Like the guy will be like, I got an A on my math test. Look at this, everyone.
Yeah. And then
everyone's like,
oh, nande? Right? It's so weird. And then like, yeah, as you said, like very trivial things. Like somebody will like stumble, and then the guy like heroically catches the girl, and it's like, it's okay, you have my support. And she's like, oh my god, Tanaka, arigato. It's so, I don't know, it's just so weird to me. It's so the over dramatization.
You got like the camera pans into their face,
yeah.
like
Yeah, and you got the gasps.
Yeah, I actually, one thing I find like super interesting. I kind of want to like know like a little bit more, but at the same time I kind of don't, which is like the whole like anime sound effects. Like I wonder what they're like in like the studio when they're doing that. They're just recording like every effect. We're like,
I mean, yeah, that's basically how it works, right? Maybe they drink a little bit. I know that they do that in the West sometimes. I remember seeing like this behind the scenes for like Rick and Morty, where Justin Roiland will like drink some booze and they records his lines. Maybe they do some.
But that's also the character of the guy, of Rick.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. And he also does all of these weird like sound effects. So. Yeah, but it's just so exaggerated in Japan.
Yeah, I find it'd be kind of funny, like, you know how like you have all the mumble rap and everything where they go and add like ooh, hey, or whatever. Like, imagine you just switch,
Yeah.
and imagine you just like swap it with like the anime sounds, like I'm going somewhere, like some shit like.
Dude, that's actually a great idea for a song.
Hey, I'm a musical innovator. Maybe this is what you're gonna go do. Put this on your next track.
Maybe. Who knows? You never know.
Yeah, you never know. This could be the start of something big here. Yeah. There's too many sound effects going through my head right now, and I'm like I know I'm gonna be embarrassed the second like I play back the recording and I actually like attempted it. So I'm just gonna go and not do that. Save everyone a little bit. Save face a little bit on my side here. Don't want to let the KoreKara viewer listeners down. They're like, oh, Raza, I was chill with you, but then you did that, and I was like, maybe, I don't know. Hey, but maybe people subscribe from that, like, oh, dude,
you know what? Probably,
right
to be
there.
honest. Because with a lot of podcasts, it's just like, oh, what did you two say? Oh, well, yeah, I tried this new game. It's very exciting. Have you heard about this new movie that came out? It's so mundane.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for all the listeners out there, look forward to the new single "Immersion Is Everything" coming out sometime. But I guess like enough memes for now. But do you have any like other hobbies that you're maybe thinking about getting into in the future, or are you kind of set with like Japanese as the main with like music production on the side?
Oh, I really hope that I don't get into any new hobbies, because it's even like right now I'm not even doing university because like we have the summer vacation, but like I don't really have quite enough time to do everything I want. Like I want to play my Nintendo Switch. I want to read. I want to listen to Japanese. I want to watch other like regular YouTube that I normally watch. I don't know. I want to work on my YouTube channel, music. So I really hope that I don't find anything else that piques my interest. And unfortunately, I have the kind of personality where if I think about like doing something, I get really fixated on it, and I really want to try it out as soon as possible. And that's kind of how it happened with music as well. I like really dove into it quickly. So yeah, no, I hope I just stick with YouTube, and other like online stuff that I'm trying to work on right now, Japanese and music.
And I guess to give like the listeners an idea of like your schedule, like how long does I guess like YouTube take like Japanese and music production like in your I guess week?
I don't know. It's very. I'm not really the kind of person where I would have like set schedules. So it's very like back and forth. Sometimes I'll be like deep into music. Sometimes I'll be deep into Japanese. Sometimes I'll be deep into YouTube. So right now I'm like waiting for like a delivery that I'll need to like record my video. So I'm not working on the video because I've finished the script, so I can't really work on that right now. And I just put out that new track, music track. So I guess right now the main focus is Japanese, and I'm always excited to study more Japanese. It's actually also very nice. Like as you get better, you also progress faster because like you have fewer interruptions in terms of like looking up stuff in a dictionary. And I also hate the way I am with reading specifically, because if it's listening, I'll let it go because it goes by so quickly. But with reading, I'm like, I have to understand every single word in this sentence. And until I have deconstructed this whole sentence, I will not move on. And then if it's just like above my level, then which actually happens very rarely now. But if it is, then I'll just let it go. But I want to understand everything. I'm very OCD about reading. And I don't think it's that bad either. Because like, I will, like with that word, for example, I mentioned earlier, kurayami. That was a word I did not know before reading this book. But now it's come up so many times and I looked it up almost every time it came up. it is solidified in my brain, and I don't even have it in my Anki deck. So yeah, I think it's kind of beneficial. I don't even do Anki these days. I just kind of learn by like practicing and then looking up stuff. And it kind of works in a similar way because you're still you have the spaced repetition from encountering the word, then seeing what it means, then moving on, encountering it again later down the line, and so on.
Yeah, each time you look at a sentence, you're like, I'm gonna end this man's whole career. Deconstruct him.
Yeah.
I guess like moving towards like your YouTube more specifically, what I guess is your maybe short-term goal right now, and I guess your long-term goal moving forward with the channel?
Short-term goal. Oh, what am I saying? Hold on, I'll say that again. Short-term goals, I would say right now is just to make more videos. I have not really been. My upload schedule is very sporadic. I want to at least upload twice a month, at least as like a baseline. But I just want to upload more. Try to grow my audience. Try to maybe grow my Patreon. And then tying in with the like long-term goals. I want to try to make it maybe more sustainable in the future, because I don't know, ideally it would be much nicer to just work. It's actually very similar to your discussion with Matt. Like I just want to kind of work with my own schedule, just do my own thing, instead of, like a regular 9-to-5 office job. So yeah, I think that is my main goal right now, to make more videos, grow my channel, try to make it more sustainable in the long run.
And do you want to like move more towards like maybe mainly focusing on Japanese, or do you want to still encompass like all of your hobbies together in on your one channel moving forward to the future?
I've come to realize that whenever I make like videos about other topics, I kind of alienate a lot of my audience. It seems like just based on like the views and stuff. So I think I'm gonna mainly focus on Japanese, maybe like branch off into like Japanese culture, maybe Japanese history. I'm very much interested in like the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's something that I've been really interested in recently, and I think it'd be nice to like. I've already read a book about Hiroshima, and I want to read a book about Nagasaki, and then maybe make a video about my thoughts on it, because there are a lot of philosophical kind of topics in there about like how the Japanese people reacted to the whole situation. So maybe I could branch off into like culture and history, who knows? But right now it's just trying to focus on the language side of things, try to make more of that type of content. Maybe I'll throw in a video about like music here and there, but we'll see. The main topic is Japanese, of course.
Yeah, the future is bright, but I think this is probably a good spot to end the podcast. But I really want to thank you for coming on, Deni. It was a pleasure having you here, and it was a great conversation learning more about you, the man behind the YouTube channel.
I don't even have that big of a YouTube channel at all, but thank you. I've actually wanted to like take part in a podcast for a long time, and this is a very nice opportunity, and I think it's a great thing you guys are doing, because I mean, it is still, I would say, like in the grand scheme of things, a fairly niche hobby. So like Japanese, and I don't really know of any other podcasts in this format about this topic. So I think it's a very nice thing you guys are doing, and I'll definitely be tuning in for future episodes. So yeah, definitely thank you for having me on.
And I guess, do you have a specific message you want to share to the KoreKara listeners?
Yes, I have a message to do with language learning. I think you guys should try to enjoy the process as much as possible. If you're like, try not to get frustrated, because that would make it worse for you. Try to like notice the things you've improved on. Try to see how you could maybe improve things in the future. Just try to stay positive. Keep learning. Don't fuss too much about how much progress you've made, how quickly you're making progress, stuff like that. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the process. And if you enjoy it, you'll probably want to do it more and achieve even more success. And that's the point, after all, right? Why are we learning Japanese? To have fun, to speak to Japanese people, maybe to consume Japanese content. Everyone has their own like specific reasons, but overall, you want to use the language and have fun.
Hey guys, thanks for making it all the way to the end of the podcast. If you made it this far, go ahead and comment down below who your favorite Japan-related YouTuber is, because we would love to check out some more YouTube channels and maybe talk to them on our podcast. But in the meantime, thanks for listening to our podcast. Please like and subscribe to support our YouTube channel, but you can also check out our Patreon if you want bonus clips, or you can join our Discord and talk to us. Peace.